Hello and good evening out there. Welcome to FLCN. We are officially in week 8. That means week 7 is in the books for the Trash Player League. So you know what that means. It's time to get into the matchup post-game analysis for week 7 and get into the week 8 pre-game analysis. This week we will also be, well, I say we, but as you can see, it's just me by myself, solo dolo, once again. Some of us remember that we have obligations around here to put out a good product in a timely manner, so we make sure that we're available on the days we should be. But some of us don't. It is what it is. But anyway, with that being said, though, with 9 teams coming into week 7, being 3-3, the whole entire league was essentially in a reset. And now we're going to see what the fallout was from that shakeup and from that reset and see how things shaked out. You'll be surprised, actually, the guys that were on top and no longer on top, and the guys that on the bottom, some of them moved up, some of them moved down. But we're going to check it out. We're going to get into it. It's enough of the pregame. It's the Trash Player League. Let's get it! Let's get into these scores. Let's look at these matchups. So without further ado, let's do it. So as you can see here, that right here is the scores from week 7. I choose Violence loses to Big Trust to the score of 120.44 to 133.84. Your player got hurt pulls off the huge upset and scores 125.84 to Lancelot's 106.94. Raw Dog Supreme defeats Reese's Buttercup team by an astronomical score. Labardicus Prime defeats I Love Cam Newton. And We Are Not From 750 loses to FTW. And the Indie Animals defeat Corey's championship team by a meager margin of 3 points. So now let's do it. Actually, let's just start right here. Let's start at the bottom with probably the worst scores that was in the league besides one team. So we have Indie Animals versus Corey's championship team this week. In this matchup, Indie Animals scores 104.10 to Corey's championship team 101.98. And as you can see here, as we scroll down, neither one of these teams did very well. You have on Indie Animals side, Ryan Tannehill gets 20 points, and DeAndre, excuse me, I apologize. I'm slipping over my words. DeEarnest Johnson scores 24.80 for Indie Animals, and clearly it seems like that's pretty much all he needed in this one, because that was enough to hold off Jamar Chase's 34.10 points and Lamar Jackson's 22 points from this week. Oh, Malcolm Brown also showed up with 19 points. With the production that he got here, you would have think he would have won, except for the fact that his running back situation failed him here, and his bye weeks kind of failed him here. He has AJ Dillon giving him a negative points, Miles Sanders giving him 3 points, and it wasn't like Miles Sanders was doing anything all season, but now Miles Sanders is hurt. So he won't have him for at least a few weeks going forward. Dallas Goedert does admirably at 12 points, pretty good for a tight end. But let's get into the bench here. As you can see here, there's a lot of bye weeks on both sides. Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen is missing on the animal side, and Justin Jefferson is missing, and the Pittsburgh defense is missing on Corey's championship team side. Indy Animals had Derrick Henry still available, and seems like Derrick Henry was enough to pull him over the top, even with this very meager score here. Indy Animals score, interestingly enough, is only enough to beat one other team in the league this year. So he has the lowest winning score this week out of any winning team. So moving right along, let's get out the basement there. We're going to go into We Not From 750 in versus FTW. We Not From 750 scores 105.16 to Fuck the World 174.46. FTW continues to live up to the moniker of Fuck the World because he is continually putting up good points, and every time he wins, he outscores his projections. In this matchup, We Not From 750 has come back down to earth when it comes with the production he has gotten from his team. Let's look to see what players he had on bye week and why he wasn't able to live up to what he has been doing as of late. So he did not have Ezekiel Elliott this week, and also Tony Pollard as well, but that's the same team, so that's to be said, and that's obvious. Devontae Parker is still out, and Baker Mayfield is hurt as well and out. So this week, We Not From 750, Aaron Rodgers does perform, gives We Not From 750 29 points, but it wasn't enough compared to Matthew Stafford's 32 points. Robert Woods performs admirably and gives him 15 points, but that is still beneath his projections by 2 points there. Leonard Fournette continues on his uptrend in this Tampa Bay offense, and now is showing that he's definitely worth the start and definitely has carved out his role. As of late, this is his fourth week in a row outscoring his projections and actually being a viable start option. So kudos to Leonard Fournette, and kudos to We Not From 750 for sticking with your guy through the first 3 weeks of the season. Now, looking on the other side of things here, you have AJ Brown, who gave 27 points to FTW. Alvin Kamara, who shows up this week to the tune of 33 points. And then you also have Devontae Booker, who he acquired through trade, also show up with 14 points. So it looks like that trade is working out for FTW. He is getting good production from Devontae Booker, and after trading away his defense, he was able to pick up Arizona, who gives him good production in this matchup against Houston. So there is absolutely nothing that would have changed either of these teams' fate in their bench. So with that being said, we're going to move right along into the next matchup, which is Labarticus Prime versus I Love Cam Newton. I Love Cam Newton scores 93.72 points, which is the lowest point total of the week. Labarticus Prime scores 140.38. I believe Labarticus Prime, up until this point, has been essentially blowing out every opponent that he plays, because he has the luck of no matter who he plays, when he wins, his opponent always scores low. They always score low. And this is probably Labarticus Prime's second time being able to score this high in the season, and he outperforms his projections here. Let's look at it. Let's look at the bench first this week just to see who's on bye and what players were missing here. So, I love Cam Newton is missing Dalvin Cook this week, no Zach Moss, and no number one quarterback Dak Prescott, and he was also missing Darren Waller, who was out due to injury. The injury bug continues to be a bugaboo for I Love Cam Newton, and it showed up yet again in another week here. And on the flip side, Labarticus Prime lost Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert, and he also lost and CeeDee Lamb. But I will say this, Labarticus Prime seems to be one of the deeper teams in this league now that he has started collecting players through free agency. So Elijah Mitchell was able to come in and give him a 16.70. Javonte Williams. All right. Anyway, Javonte Williams gives him 17 points this week after giving 2 meager performances 3 weeks in a row prior to that. So it seems like this was just a very timely week for Javonte Williams. Deebo Samuels comes through with 21 points for Labarticus Prime. And on the flip side, I Love Cam Newton has Derek Carr perform decent enough with 23 points. And Cooper Kupp continue his dominant streak through the season with 37 points. But everywhere else, straight garbage. Sony Michel gives 0.40. Cameron Brate gives 0 points. It was like he was never even there. Justin Myers gives 9. Odell Beckham, it's truly time to let you go, friend. Your greatness days are over. It seems to be. It's a sad day to see, but Odell gave 4 points here. So it's no surprise as to why I Love Cam Newton lost this game. So hopefully better days are ahead for I Love Cam Newton, because he does get Dalvin Cook back. He does get Dak Prescott back. And hopefully for him, Darren Waller comes back. And I see his team being on the uptrend going forward. The only time that his team will probably falter again is when Cooper Kupp's bye week comes up. As long as he's able to avoid the injury bug going forward for the rest of the season. Well, and moving on to the next matchup here, we have Raw Dog Supreme and Reese's Buttercup team. Raw Dog Supreme is now outperforming his projections by a lot. This is the 3rd week in a row where Raw Dog Supreme just puts up an extraordinary amount of points. He scores 176.34 to Reese's Buttercup's team's 117.24. Raw Dog Supreme here has Tua go off for a 34.04. Excuse me. Meanwhile, on the flip side, Reese's Buttercup team, which Patrick Mahomes has been her bread and butter, well, he doesn't show up. That bread has went stale and that butter has melted, at least in this week. Patrick Mahomes gives her 5.74 points, which has to be concerning seeing how the Kansas City Chiefs are on a terrible downtrend. And on the other side of things, when it comes to the receivers, you have Waddle, who gives Raw Dog 15 points, and Hopkins gives him 18. And he also has Christian Kirk give him 15 points here. This was an all-around performance for Raw Dog Supreme. Not a single person on his team that he started scored less than 15 points for him. That's a massive deal. I mean, your kicker gave you 15 points. Like, that's huge. And on the flip side, just too many people just didn't show up for Reese's Buttercup team. Patrick Mahomes doesn't show up. Nyheim Hines, who I personally wouldn't have started, didn't show up. This was an excellent pickup by Reese's Buttercup team this week. Clutch pickup by her to get Zach Ertz this week, who went to the Arizona Cardinals. He gives her a score of 16 points here. Let's look at the bench. Nothing would have changed her fate. It just would have made more sense to start Melvin Gordon over Nyheim Hines. And on the other side, there was nothing. It looks like Raw Dog Supreme started all the right people. He left no points on the bench this week. So Raw Dog Supreme, kudos to you, sir. You have seemingly recovered from your, let's just face it, not the best draft in the world. And you've played the waiver wire, you played the trade game, and as of right now, you're coming out on top. Kudos to you. It's nice to see someone that's playing the waiver wire and getting the job done and getting their W's. So moving right along here, we're going to go into your player got hurt versus Lancelot's team. Now, in this one, I'm going to just sit and watch, and I'm going to have a little fun with this one because your player got hurt, had a field day this week. He was only set to score 99 points this week, and he outscores his projections to the tune of 125.84 to Lancelot's 106.94, who underperforms this week and misses his projections. Lancelot was supposed to score 123.40, but did not happen. One of the main reasons why Lancelot was not able to have this happen is because his Lord and Savior, the guy that has been bailing him out of every single week, despite everything, was not available to him. Josh Allen was on bye, and his one rocket ship receiver, Mike Williams, also on bye this week. So he was not able to take advantage of your player got hurt, and your player got hurt was able to take advantage of Lancelot here. Despite missing Harris, Johnson, and Amari Cooper, and Emmanuel Sanders for that matter, despite missing 4 players to buy that he would normally start, your player got hurt, outperforms his projections this week. He gets great compensation from Uzomah here. I do not know his first name. CJ Uzomah here, which was another timely pickup, which is funny enough because Sunday was apparently tight end day, and two teams in this league picked up a tight end that was clutch performers. Your player got hurt, picks up CJ Uzomah, who comes through in a huge way, catching all 3 of his targets for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's dope. I think that is absolutely awesome. Your player got hurt, was able to get that production there. And with that, he was able to get the tandem in that situation because he also has Joe Burrow, who he now found his quarterback for his team. He found the guy that he should be running through with moving forward. And Joe Burrow came through with 32.14 points for your player got hurt here. I also like Khalil Herbert, who seems to be the real deal here for the Chicago Bears. I do not fear Damian Williams when he comes back. And I also feel as though Khalil Herbert will still be a part of the offense when Montgomery comes back. So I like Khalil Herbert here as well. And your player got hurt. Actually, he's only looking up from here because, like I said, he got through his toughest bye week with a W, and that's a big deal. Missing 4 starters on bye and still able to get a W is massive. Team Lancelot not taking care of business, and he lost this week, as he should have. So I do want to look at the full recap here just to get an idea of what happened here. If you guys don't look at your recap situations the day after and read it over, it's pretty interesting. As you can see here, Joe Burrow accounted for 25% of the score for your player got hurt. And actually, between Joe Burrow and Uzama, you actually have them both taking up 45% of the score for your player got hurt here. But the new thing that they have going on here is the important players of the week are the important players on your team. And as you can see right now, the important players for your player got hurt, Najee Harris is your player got hurt's MVP. Deontay Johnson is your player got hurt best drafted player. And the best acquisition he has thus far is Joe Burrow. And on the flip side, Josh Allen is the MVP. Tyreek Hill is his best drafted, which kind of says a lot, seeing how Tyreek Hill is streaky. And if that's your best drafted player, is a streaky player, it's kind of looking rough for you moving forward. And Cortland Sutton is his best acquisition. So, in game notes, it says only 4 of the 9 starters on your player got hurt team scored higher than their projections. But that was enough to pull them through, which is all that matters. And not only that, but he actually scored higher. Those players that scored higher than the projections was enough to pull him ahead in his team overall projections. It's kind of dope. And on the other side, Team Lancelot only had 3 players score higher than their projections. Well, and as you can see here, your player got hurt. I scored Team Lancelot in every fashion except for running back. And we already know why that was, and that's because your player got hurt has running backs on bye week. So, anyway, time to move on into the next matchup and the final matchup that we'll be covering this week. I Choose Violence versus Big Trust. I Choose Violence loses this game to the score of 120.44 to 133.84. I lost this game essentially when it comes down to Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown being out was the deciding factor for why this happened, in my opinion, because had Antonio Brown being played, he would have 8-2 this target share that Mike Evans has right over here. Mike Evans goes off for 31 points in this game, and Chris Godwin has 8 receptions for 111 yards. Had Antonio Brown played, he would have ate into that. He would have definitely given me more than likely more points than I got from either DJ Moore or Hunter Renfrow in this situation here. So, which would have helped, which more than likely would have propelled me to the W this week, but didn't happen. So no need crying over spilled milk. Essentially, as you can see here, nobody on my team really one person outperforms their projections here, and that's Devontae Adams. Everybody else underperforms their projections. Everybody that matters. And on the flip side, it just really comes down to these receivers doing their job. Baltimore's defense gives Big Trust a -1, and I was not able to take advantage of that. Mark Andrews does not come through this week. Still not able to take advantage of that. And Aaron Jones falls short this week. Not able to take advantage of that. There was a lot left on the field here for that I should have been able to get a hold of. Let's look at the bench and see if anything could have changed our fates. Well, James Robinson being on bye was a big deal for me, because had James Robinson been available, Kit McKissick wouldn't have got the start. And on the flip side, you have Higgins on the bench with 13 points. Kenyon Drake on the bench with 16.9. And, well, that's where it stops right there. So, again, I want to show this full recap here because reading it earlier, I found some interesting notes in this matchup. Okay, so as you can see here, Tom Brady, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin accounts for over 60% of Big Trust's score this week, and his matchup player of the week was Mike Evans. Big Trust dominates I Choose Violence in the wide receiver category and quarterback category. Meanwhile, I Choose Violence pretty much won the battle everywhere else, but not by a wide enough margin. And Tom Brady is Big Trust's MVP. Mike Evans is the best drafted. Jameis Winston is his best acquisition. Kyler Murray is the MVP for I Choose Violence. Devontae Adams being the best drafted, and Cordero Patterson being the best acquisition thus far. But here's the thing I want Big Trust to see here. Big Trust would have been defeated by 7 other teams besides I Choose Violence this week. And it says Big Trust would be 3-4 if they play I Choose Violence every single week. That means I Choose Violence would beat you most of the time, Big Trust. So watch your mouth. And it also says Big Trust would be 3-3 if they played the same schedule, excluding the head-to-head matchup as I Choose Violence. So I just want to point that out, that you got lucky. You got lucky today. And these what ifs kind of say that. They kind of read that off to you, that you got lucky today. Not going to happen again, brother. Not going to happen again. And hopefully, for your sake, I hope I see you again. Hopefully you make the playoffs so I can see you again, because I know I'm going. I gotta go. I gotta get this money, and that is what it is. But that's it for this weekly breakdown of these player matchups. This was a heartbreaker for me, man. I wasn't feeling it. I hate that I lost this one. Needed that W, especially seeing how this was essentially a reset of the league, and now I'm down by 1, and I need to climb my way back up into the winner's circle, and because right now I'm upside down on wins versus losses. All right, so going back to the league screen here, before we move on, we're just going to look at the league pick'em. All right, so in the league pick'em, I was 2-4 this week. Ricky was 5-1. He picked just about every team correctly. Shawn was 3-3 this week. Reese's Buttercup team, who actually decides to participate, was 2-4 this week. So, and that's it for those that participated in actually picking what teams was going to win. Let's see what teams that I picked to win that I was incorrect about. So I was correct about Indie Animals defeating Corey's championship team, correct about FTW, incorrect about Cam Newton, Reese's Buttercup team, incorrect about myself. It damn sure was wrong about Lancelot versus Your Player Got Hurt. That's rough. It just shows who I picked wrong, but it won't let me see who y'all picked wrong. Oh well. All right, so that ends our coverage of the post-game matchups and analysis. Now let's go ahead and look into the power rankings. Shawn was able to put together the power rankings while he was out there in San Francisco. So let's look at these power rankings and see what we have here for this week. So as we can see here, there was a huge shakeup. FTW moves to the top, and he is now the #1 team in the power rankings. Raw Dog Supreme does a massive leapfrog by 8 spots to #2. At one point, Raw Dog Supreme was actually at 12. He was actually at 12, and now he's at 2. Like, that's absolutely amazing. Congratulations to Raw Dog Supreme again. Labarticus Prime staying consistent. Even though he's not putting up big numbers, he is getting victories. And so he's at #3. Big Trust moves up a slot from last week, while I Choose Violence moves down by 4 slots with this loss. And Indie Animals also moves down 4 slots with this loss. Shawn Williams moves down 3 slots here. Your Player Got Hurt moves up 4 slots to 8. If he continues to win, he may move up even further. And everybody else moves down. Corey's championship team moves down by 2. I Love Cam Newton moves down by 2. Reese's Buttercup team moves down by 2. And We Not From 750 move down by 2 as well. So that's it for the shakeup and everything that has changed this week. The only thing that I gotta say is a lot of this was some people were benefactors of the bye week, and some people, despite having bye weeks, showed up in a very huge way. So kudos to y'all, but everything will shake out in the end, because what we seen here is that a lot of people had their best players bye weeks this week, and these people will get their best players back, and barring injury, I think we're going to see this power rankers flip again. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into next week's matchups and see who's going to get the dubs here. So right here, this is the week 8 matchups. I Choose Violence goes up against the current #1 in the current #2 in the power rankings, Raw Dog Supreme. I Choose Violence is so far looks like he's going to lose this matchup, but we're going to get deeper into that. Your Player Got Hurt goes up against FTW. Lancelot goes up against Cam Newton. Both teams needing a turnaround there. Labarticus Prime versus Indie Animals. And this looks like this is a rematch of the rivalry teams. They see each other yet again. And Big Trust goes up against We Not From 750. Corey's championship team goes up against Reese's Buttercup team here. All right. So we're going to start with I Choose Violence versus Raw Dog Supreme, just starting right off the top. And so far, we have I Choose Violence. He is set to score 108.69, but this will not stay this way because Hunter Renfro is currently in the lineup and Devontae Adams has COVID. We'll see how things shake out. I Choose Violence was able to make an acquisition this week and get Jamar Chase, and we get James Robinson back. So that's a big deal there. Looking at the bench here, hopefully for this team, Antonio Brown comes back, and as you can see, the bench is pretty empty as of right now. Because, and it won't be on Wednesday, but in that traded away 4 players, so now the depth is gone for this team. And on the flip side, you have, pretty much Raw Dog Supreme is playing the same players that he played prior to this, and he is not dealing with any real bye weeks going into this matchup. So that's a big deal there. Of course, I'm going to choose myself here. But we'll see how this plays out. I think Devontae Adams being out is a big deal. And the only thing that could really not make it that big of a deal is if Antonio Brown does actually play this week. So, moving on, we have Your Player Got Hurt versus FTW. Your Player Got Hurt. He has Joe Burrow, Deontay Johnson, Khalil Herbert, Harris, Najee Harris, and then Amari Cooper here. I do like, and he has Cincinnati defense going up against the Jets. That's a big deal. On the flip side of things, DeAndre Swift goes up against Philly, and every team has been able to eat on the ground against Philadelphia thus far this season. And Alvin Kamara is going up against Tampa Bay this week, and only one team was able to actually do anything on the ground against Tampa Bay. So we will see what Alvin Kamara is able to do this week. I do not necessarily like the matchup for Alvin Kamara. So let's look at their bench, see if anything stands out. No, their bench, clear. It seems clear to me that they're starting the right people in this situation. So I'm gonna go with Your Player Got Hurt to get this W, and we're gonna move on to the next matchup here, and that is Team Lancelot versus I Love Cam Newton. So Team Lancelot gets his savior back, Josh Allen, which is a very huge deal. But Dak Prescott is also back for I Love Cam Newton. Tyreek Hill going up against the Giants, that could be a big deal. But Cooper Kupp is also going up against Houston. This may actually be my game of the week. Mike Williams going up against New England, not necessarily a bad matchup, but it's not a good matchup either. Odell Beckham has been pretty much useless up until this point. I just wouldn't start him. I would have to hang that up. But who do you go to if you hang that up with that guy? Darren Waller is on bye. That's a huge deal for I Love Cam Newton. And on the flip side, those running backs, they just don't impress me that much. Meanwhile, Dalvin Cook does. And if Patrick Mahomes is a little bit banged up, they should be running the ball more. And if I'm correct, Williams was able to do some work on the ground in the time that whatchamacallit was out last week. And yes, he was. He had 21 attempts. He had 21 attempts on October 17th, but this past week it was just 5 against Tennessee. So if he could get back to that 21 attempts that he had on October 17th, and maybe he could get some points on the board here for I Love Cam Newton. We'll see though. Don't necessarily believe it. But with that being said, I just don't like Odell Beckham, especially going up against Pittsburgh defense and his tight end situation, losing Darren Waller and Williams only given one decent week. I have to go with Team Lancelot here. Labarcus Prime goes up against Indy Animals. Labarcus Prime continues to do the same thing that he always does, which is leave guys out of his lineup. Indy Animals, he's rolling with Ryan Tannehill this week. Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs going up against Miami. That could be a big deal. Derrick Henry going up against Indiana. Nick Chubb, if healthy, going up against Pittsburgh. That's a bit of a rough matchup. But well, especially if Baker Mayfield is out, because then they'll definitely be keying in on the run here. TJ Hawkinson going up against Philly. That should be tasty for him. And Henderson should be tasty for him as well. Let's look at the bench. All right, so this settles it for me. Mike Gesicki, who has been a phenomenal performer for Labarcus Prime, does go up against Buffalo this week. I don't know how much you should actually expect from Gesicki going up against Buffalo. But outside of that, everybody else seems to have a decent enough matchup that I'm going to take Labarcus Prime over Indy Animals. Indy Animals' slate of games just don't seem to be getting any easier going forward. And Big Trust versus We Not From 750. In this matchup, Big Trust is set to lose, and that's because he has players that are on bye week still in his lineup. All right, Tom Brady and company goes up against New Orleans. I do not expect to see them eating the same way that they ate just this week before. But we'll see how that goes. On the flip side, you have Joe Mixon going up against the Jets. Leonard Fournette going up against Tampa Bay, who has been vulnerable on the ground. Noah Fant going up against Washington. And Ezekiel Elliott going up against Minnesota. Let's see Big Trust's bench and see what actually he has here. Big Trust continues to not show T. Higgins love. I wonder if that will ever change at all. And yeah. Despite that though, actually, I'm going to go with Big Trust because of Tom Brady. Tom Brady and his running backs. I expect. No, you know what? I flipped that. I apologize. I'm going with We Not From 750 this week. And lastly, last team I do believe is Corey's championship team versus Reese's Buttercup team. In this matchup, you have Kirk Cousins. You have Kirk Cousins going up against Patrick Mahomes, quarterback for quarterback. He's still starting Julio Jones at the moment. Not something I would do, but hey. Dallas Goedert, decent enough. She's still starting Naheem Hines. I don't like that. Yeah. Melvin Gordon's going up against Washington. I would not be starting Hines in that situation. And yeah. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of who Reese's Buttercup team has currently in the lineup. So, but Corey's championship team not having Malcolm Brown is a big deal. It's a bit of a big deal there. But I'm going to go with Corey's championship team this week anyway. Right now, we're going to get a quick snippet of things that Ricky would like to say. So, and put out there to the league. And so, without further ado, let's just get into that. Now, like I said, that's the end of the episode. Link, like, subscribe. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We appreciate the views and the love, even though, you know, it's small right now, but it'll grow. Share our shit, man, if you enjoy it. Either way. Anyway, thank you. Peace.
I went into this week not really sure what I was going to do to pull out this victory and not have to compromise giving up any of my players for substitution for the bye week. So ultimately, I was going to just, I'm not going to lie, I was just going to like throw up whatever and whatever happened. But then during the week, I kept just looking at different videos and listening to different sports reports on different teams and what they were doing. And Sunday morning, I got up and I just kind of took all that information, looked over players real quick, looked over matchups, and I decided to fall from outside of my normal three wide receiver set and just go with the 2 tight ends. And I ended up picking up CJ, and boy, was that a hell of a pickup. Other than that, I just had faith in Herbert. I figured if anybody was going to do it, it was going to probably be him for running backs against Tampa, because there wasn't much that they could do. The Chicago Bears haven't had a very, very, very good throwing game. In the past few weeks, all they have been able to do is run the ball well. So I figured they were just going to run the ball like a million times, and eventually either Tampa would like fold and just be like, whatever, you guys can get some shit ton points, or Herbert was going to do well. I didn't really see the game, so I'm just going to assume that it was the second option and Tampa just fell through, but he ended up getting me a shitload of points. Joe Burrow went out there and balled. I was expecting a shootout, but not like this. I wasn't expecting them to destroy the Ravens like that. At the end of the day, my team came through the apocalypse, and we got the victory. So let's see where we go from there. We're on a streak. We're 4-3. We're finally over 500, and I want to see if I can push a win streak going. Maybe the next 3. I don't know, though. It's going to be some tough decisions coming up. I got a pretty good bench going for me now. I got some pretty good starters, and now it's going to be playing the matchup game. That can be a gift and a curse, though, because sometimes you overthink some things and play the wrong players, or I don't get enough points and start catching up in the point game. That is something that I'm going to need to look at in case there's some type of tiebreaker coming up for when the playoffs come, or if the points are going to be the deciding factor. So I got a lot to figure out still, but my guys rallied together and we got the win. So that's that. I think I'm in 6th place now, which is a huge jump in rank, but it can jump. Well, not jump, but fall straight lower than that if I don't get the next week's win. But that's going to be a big match. I got to go against FTW, and his team is constructed pretty good. I don't know if he drafted it or was on auto draft, whatever, but it's a dangerous team. They could either blow you out or he just makes the wrong mistake and loses. And hopefully I get the second of those options this week, but we'll see. Time to get back in the war room and game plan for next week.
So there you have it, folks. Those are my picks for this week coming up, week 8. Hopefully I can turn things around and get this W and put my team back on the right track. And we'll see where it goes from here, man. I don't know how things are going to work out, but We'll figure it out some way, somehow, man. Either way, with that being said, like, subscribe if you enjoyed the episode. Sorry my brother's not here today. Wish he could be here, but it is what it is.